Ladies and gentlemen, please join your seats. And we shall be starting in a few minutes. Some security announcements, and I hope that it's just a formality and that we're not going to be using any of this. The conference hall has 6 emergency exits and is fully equipped with extinguishers. All session rooms are fully equipped. Security and first aid are available at the front desk. So please find your seats, and we should be starting in a few minutes. Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. We had the pleasure and privilege of receiving the Pope, Francois. This was a few months ago, and that's how he chose to start his message, Assalamu alaikum, be in peace. My name is Yusr Tazi, and I'll have the privilege of being the MC for this opening ceremony. It's the 5th edition of SYMPHOS, a major international event hosted by OCP Group and Mohammed VI Polytechnique University. Welcome to all of you, a warm welcome to Morocco, to our visitors coming from abroad. Thank you for being here. There is more than 1,155 delegates from 39 countries. It's now my honor to invite for a welcome address the Executive Vice President, Industrial Operations and OCP Innovation Sponsor. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Elfali Ilyas.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear SYMPHOS participant, Mr. Governor. On behalf of the organizing committee, I am pleased to welcome you to the 5th edition of the International Symposium on Innovation and Technology in the Phosphate Industry. After a successful past 4 editions in 2011, 13, 15, and 17, SYMPHOS succeeded to establish itself as the meeting point for experts, researchers, industrials, to exchange and share innovative ideas, discuss best practices, and examine new technologies. We are extremely happy to see that the SYMPHOS community is growing and honored to see such large audience at this 5th edition. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the participants, especially those who came from abroad, for joining us and sharing their valuable experience and ideas. This 5th edition is specific since it is co-organized by OCP and the University Mohammed VI Polytechnique, an industrial group and a research and innovation-oriented university that work in tandem, joining their efforts to face challenges within a unique and innovative collaborative model. Ladies and gentlemen, through plenary sessions where renowned experts will give lectures as well as oral sessions in which specialists from various countries will share their experiences and practices and present the latest developments and innovations in their fields, the organizing and the scientific committees have prepared a very rich and intense technical program focused on disruptive technologies and innovative ideas. Within these 3 coming days, the latest technologies and scientific knowledge in various fields related to the phosphate industry will be discussed. A glance through the list of presentations planned reveals the diversity of the topics that will be covered. In fact, in addition to the traditional topics addressed in the previous editions related to the phosphate industry value chain and other related areas, phosphate beneficiation, phosphoric acid, and fertilizer processes, agriculture, industrial maintenance, and so on, new topics have been scheduled in dedicated sessions, such as digitalization and artificial intelligence, green ammonia, phosphorus recovery, and others. As you may have noticed, the technical program strongly integrates sustainability and aims to address the challenges that the phosphate industry is facing: preservation of the resource, sustainable production, mindful consumption, and creation of value by means of transformation and recycling. This is also highlighted in the theme chosen for this edition: innovation and disruptive technologies for a sustainable phosphate industry. Indeed, the phosphate industry is looking for solutions to meet challenges such as lowering greenhouse gases, developing cleaner energy sources, and making better use of the resource. OCP is one of its major players, is committed to contribute in developing and implementing solutions to the challenges of the future of the phosphate industry. I am sure that in the next few days, the exchanges about these issues will be fruitful and rewarding. Ladies and gentlemen, along with the plenary lectures and oral communications, more than 60 posters are presented in a dedicated area, an opportunity for researchers and engineers to present their works and share their preliminary results and prospects. We kindly invite you to visit the posters area and meet and discuss with the researchers. Keeping with tradition, an exhibition area is open to participants. More than 80 exhibitors will present the latest of their technologies, the best of their know-how, and their innovative products and services. We welcome all the companies present in this area and invite you to visit their booths. In addition, since SYMPHOS is always an opportunity to meet with the delegates from all over the world, A networking space is provided to facilitate contacts and B2B meetings. Before concluding, I would like to thank the organizing and scientific committees and all the people who have contributed to the organization of this event for their laudable efforts. Thank you to all the participants for attending this important rendezvous for the phosphate industry community. Wish you a delightful and stimulating symposium and a pleasant stay in Morocco. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. El-Fali Ilyas, and thank you for sponsoring such a major event. I'd like to thank for being with us Mr. Aziz Bouignan, the governor of the province of Hamna. Thank you for welcoming us in this region, and please, a round of applause. It's now my pleasure to invite our second speaker for an opening address, the Secretary General of UM6P, Mr. Hisham El-Habti. Please join your hands for Mr. El-Habti.
Distinguished guests, dear professors, researchers, students, friends, honorable audience. On behalf of Mohammed VI Polytechnique University and the organizing committee of the 5th edition of SYMPHOS, I am pleased to welcome you in Benguerir today and warmly thank you for your active participation in this new edition. I'm glad to see that the SYMPHOS community is growing and that such an important number of phosphates professionals have traveled to Benguerir to attend this important event. Your commitment to participate to SYMPHOS shows the interest you all have in this event, which has become an important meeting to discuss scientific and technical evolutions in the domain of phosphate industry, in addition to innovative ideas and technologies of tomorrow. I'm particularly pleased to see this edition co-organized in strong collaboration between OCP Group and Mohammed VI Polytechnique University. I'm also pleased to note that participants from 39 countries representing the global phosphate ecosystem have made it to Benguerir to attend this edition. Different fields are being represented today: industry players, manufacturers and suppliers of equipment, technology designers, institutes, and research institutions. Distinguished guests, honorable audience, SYMPHOS is celebrating its 5th anniversary this year. Since its first edition in 2011, it has been established as a forum for reflection and exchange of scientific knowledge related to innovation in the phosphates sector. SYMPHOS has been able to highlight the scientific and technological breakthroughs in the fields of phosphates. In 2015, SYMPHOS has put focus on biotechnology, specific fertilizers, and fertilizer of the future. In 2017 edition, it focused on the transformative challenges of African agriculture and Agriculture 4.0. The 2019 edition will be even more exciting since it's dedicated to the latest technologies and scientific knowledge in various fields, disruptive technologies with a focus on smart fertilizers, new applications of energy storage, the environment and sustainability, the circular economy, and the optimization of processes and resources. This edition will also be marked by the introduction of new subjects and devices around the green ammonia, an essential element for soil fertilization, and the challenges of digitalization and artificial intelligence. Quality and relevant conferences and lectures will cover these themes for 3 days. Distinguished guests, the vision behind the creation of this university is to enable OCP Group and the phosphate industry in general to accelerate their development through research and innovation. Both OCP industrial team and UM6P researchers team up every day to develop new solutions and improve the performance of phosphate and derivatives, and to offer to Morocco, Africa, and the world the best-in-class research to reach food security objectives. Since its creation, UM6P is engaged in economic and human development and puts research and innovation at the forefront of African development. This mechanism enables us to consolidate Morocco's frontline position in these fields in a unique partnership-based approach between science and industry to bring relevant solutions for the future of Africa. Our university has implemented an innovative teaching and research model focusing on experimenting. Our researchers benefit from the living labs dedicated to applied research. These laboratories are full-scale work platforms such as mining facilities, experimental farms, and factories to allow researchers to use their utmost research potential. I will not miss this opportunity to congratulate and thank the organizing committee and scientific committee for their availability and efforts to make this event achieved. Thank you all for being with us. We will do our best to make your journey at UM6P rich and fruitful. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you very much, and congratulations for the wonderful work. It takes more than one person to put together such an event, so thank you for welcoming us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to introduce our keynote speaker for this opening ceremony, a Belgian industrialist. He has wrote and edited 16 books. He is the founder of Zero Emissions Research and Initiatives, ZERI, at the United Nations University in Tokyo, and much more. Professor Gunther Pauli is a member of the Club of Rome. He was the founder and chairman of PPA Holding and more than 10 other companies, founder and CEO of the European Service Industries Forum, Secretary General of European Business Press Federation, founder and president of the Foundation Mozarteum Belgicum, chairman and president of EcoVert, and advisor of rector of United Nations University in Tokyo. He is the founder of Zero Emissions Research and Initiative ZERI at the United Nations University of Tokyo. And I invite you all to have a look at the biographies of the speakers, and it's very, very inspiring and impressive to see all those biographies. He's the writer of the best-selling book, The Blue Economic 2.0, 200 projects, more than $4 billion of investment, 3 million jobs created. Please join your hands to welcome Professor Gunther Pauli, ladies and gentlemen.
Bonjour, good morning, how are you? It doesn't sound very good. How are you? You know, when your introduction gets longer and longer, that means you're getting older and older. You know, when it gets to the time of about 2 minutes introduction, you're over 60. So yes, I am over 60. Mr. Governor, Monsieur le Gouverneur, bonjour. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of OCP, thank you for giving me the honor of addressing you this morning. You have asked a rebel to address you. I'm not going to give you a vanilla version of ice cream. It's going to be with a lot of jalapeno, it's going to be a little bit hot sometimes. But my purpose here is not to teach you any technical details about phosphates, nor about engineering. I am just an economist. But I would like to put disruptive innovations into a context. Because if we don't provide the context, the word disruptive can be misinterpreted in many ways. I submit to you from the very beginning onwards that what we need is not innovations to please the industry. We urgently need innovations to respond to the needs of society and of nature. I've had the privilege of being a pioneer and created this new industry that had a factory that with zero emissions, self-sufficient in energy, and that recycled all its water. I initiated this in 1991, ladies and gentlemen, 28 years ago, and I thought everyone would follow because I was competitive on the market. I could take market share from Procter & Gamble and from Unilever. And surprisingly, the industry stayed with very traditional engineering and very traditional approaches. I was the one who started in Belgium, this tiny country. I started by paying my workers to ride the bicycle to the job. And you know what? When you give half a dollar per kilometer, everyone comes on a bicycle. But then the tax authorities intervened and said I was paying illegal because I should pay taxes. And I said, but how is it possible that someone who comes by car gets reimbursed for the costs, and the one who comes on a bicycle who takes care of his health, of himself and the environment, has to pay taxes? I refused to pay the taxes, and I was condemned in court. You can check it on my list. I was condemned for tax evasion because I paid my workers. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you have to be condemned so you can put the spotlight on the stupidity of the logic that is being applied sometimes. The result is that Belgium, 1 year later, was the first country in the world to have a tax-deductible amount for riding the bicycle to work. That is leadership, ladies and gentlemen, of the politicians. I realized that when I created my business, that I had a biodegradable product. I was making inroads in the market with a green message. Until I arrived in Indonesia and realized that I was dependent on palm oil. Now, how could I be the green entrepreneur and guru in Europe while destroying the rainforests in Indonesia? That changed my life. I worked very incessantly with the network that I have been privileged to be able to build up through the United Nations and through the Club of Rome. And this network we put to work to get the concrete ideas in place. Ladies and gentlemen, we may not forget that anything that exists today at first started with fantasy and imagination. Nothing was ready-made. This is the unique human contribution. We can imagine the impossible and make it possible. It is my purpose to share the possible, because the reality today is that we are facing exactly the same as my parents faced in 1968. In May 1968, the young people said, "No more. You don't take care of our future." In 2019, the children say it again. And who's responsible? The hippies of '68. So we have a responsibility to face this reality and start with fantasy. Here is my friend, Ai Fukati, who is the world ladies champion of free dive. But she learned how to get into the water, swim with the whales, and then make the male dance with her. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't this fantasy? But she's doing it. But in order to be able to do that, she had to learn the science of controlling oxygen in the brain. And this is where we need to realize that if you want to move from fantasy to vision, you need science. And that is why we're so happy to be here at the Mohammed VI Polytechnique University. And then, once you have this confidence, you can go beyond limits. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to go beyond the limits that we know today. Could you ever imagine a 1.55 meter little Japanese lady putting her nose in front of a shark? Or holding hands with an alligator? It seems impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to come to this conference and think about the impossible that you have in your minds. And then the impossible, put it into an ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to really innovate, we have to think in ecosystems. Here you see the rivers of the Yellowstone National Park in the United States, before the wolf was reintroduced. Have a look. Rocks on the side. Why? Because the wolves could not control the deer, and so the deer were eating all the soft grasses because they had never the risk of being exposed to the predator. Once the wolves were reintroduced, the rivers started to have again the greenery, securing a better percolation into the underground, ensuring that there is a better balance in nature, even redirecting the flow of the rivers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to realize that when you introduce wolves into a national park, you change the flow of the rivers. That is systems thinking. And I believe that we need to look at all our innovations with a systems approach, but with one very clear focus. You and I think we are in business. And in business, you need to generate value. The time of commodities where we're only focusing on being the cheapest on the market is over. The market does not want anymore the cheapest to be the best. Because if you need and want to be the cheapest, it's impossible to take care of the social and the environmental. And that's why we need to innovate. A cup of coffee or a cup of tea in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, you're ingesting perhaps only 0.2% of the biomass harvested by the farmer. What happens to the 99.8%? I arrived yesterday from Colombia, Latin America, where the cost of farming coffee is $100 per ton higher than the world market price. It's necessary that anyone who is in commodities moves on the value-added chain. And we have to stop with the core business logic, with a core market focus. Here you see the new product we're launching, and it's a solid coffee. A coffee that has the complete cherry, the outside and the inside. But of course, if you're in the market, you have to compete. And compete means you have to do better than the others on many different characteristics, not only on your performance and quality. This 10-gram coffee bar competes directly with Red Bull. You know Red Bull. You drink Red Bull so once in a while. Not Le Gouverneur. No, he doesn't drink that. But when you have the Red Bull competition, for half the price you can actually of a Red Bull, you can ensure that the people have the same kick. The difference is that the market value you generate with a Red Bull positioned product is 100 times higher than the commodity price. Ladies and gentlemen, the price is so high that in Colombia, we plan now the regeneration of 100,000 hectares of forest to do shade-grown coffee, shade-grown cacao, and only organic. Who expected that coffee could regenerate forests? Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to think that your business, your research, your technology is able to have these multiple benefits. But at the same time, let's look back and see what humanity has already developed over the past centuries and even millennia. Do you know the yo-yo? Who has not played a yo-yo? I mean, everyone has played the yo-yo. It was invented by the Greeks 2,500 years ago for young boys to learn how to modulate their energy. And actually, lifting at the right moment is a split-second decision. Remember the yo-yo. Then, who has not worked with a kite? The kite we know very well. Every child runs with a kite, and once the kite is up, it flies. It flies forever, because you've created your own wind. It was invented in Indonesia, in Sulawesi, 9,000 years ago, and has invaded the whole world before industrialization came around. And you remember the cuckoo's clock? The cuckoo's clock, which is an incredible innovation from 1620 from Baden-Württemberg in Germany, whereby simply pulling this weight up modulates energy mechanically for 8 days non-stop. Exactly the same tick-tack, tick-tack. Now, I'm going to show you how my organization works. You take 3 established, well-known industries, technologies, understood by humanity, and we blend it with AI and robots. Have a look. This is our boat that we have developed over the past years to demonstrate the capacity of renewable energies, whereby we're putting on the boat 516 square meters of solar cells that convert seawater into hydrogen, and we complement that energy source with a kite. The kite, as you see, is monitored by this white box, which is a robot, which pulls the strings. Those strings are connected to a yo-yo system that you will see shortly. And that yo-yo system allows us to harness the energy on a permanent basis. That's the yo-yo. And by having the combination of the yo-yo and the kite with an electronic system behind it that exactly has the same mechanism as a cuckoo's clock, we're able to provide power from the wind as baseload. The artificial intelligence combines the currents of the seas with the wind directions, the force of the pull, the hydrogen available. It combines everything into something that works. We can generate on land the same power because we've tested at the sea. We tested it in the sea with wind gusts of 80 kilometers an hour, and we've tested it with waves of 10 meters high. If you have ruggedized the technology in these conditions, ladies and gentlemen, you can put it on land. The kite of just 40 square meters provides energy to 2,500 families. 2,500 families with a 40 square meter kite that runs in a loop at 220 kilometers an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, the combination of AI and robotics, together with established technologies, gives us introductions to ways that we cannot imagine. The beauty is today we can show to any coastal community that if you have seawater, if you have some solar panels, you have a kite, and you know how to operate a yo-yo, you can change the future of your community. Now let me be very transparent with you. The mechanics behind this presentation, only the mechanics, is 26 million euro investment. The AI and the robot is already $55 million investment. This is not cheap. But if we don't think straightforward with investors who are ready to come along, we can't change the life in the communities. Here you have a picture of the Maldives. The Maldives is the first country in the world that has decided to become the kite nation. The kite nation because they don't have the space for the solar. They do not like to have the pylons for the wind energy. And one kite powers a whole village, a whole island. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes we have to go to some origins in history. I was very privileged that on the 9th of September, I was invited to this home. Who recognizes this home? I understand you don't know where Mao Zedong was born. I was invited to the home where Mao Zedong was born, and I was asked, since I do a lot of work in China, to celebrate and be the keynote that day for the children about the future. They wanted me to look forward. And the forward-looking event was organized in the Liuzhou Industrial Museum, where probably a city you haven't even heard of. But this is the big city next to where Mao Zedong was born, where today is the world's largest initiative on electric cars. Imagine the business model that the Chinese are developing behind and underpinning electric cars are amazing. This electric car costs $7,000 list price. With the added subsidies, it's $4,000. The city made a calculation of how many cars could run in the city without ever having a traffic jam. And then licenses are given to those who want a car through lottery. So if you want your Mercedes-Benz, or if you want to have your little Skoda, you ask for a license through lottery. You buy an electric car, you immediately have your license. And if you share the car for more than 20 hours a day, then the electricity is for free. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1 year's time, Lingshu became the largest electric car city in the world. Policy, innovation, and what happens in industrialization? The largest electric car manufacturer in the world by next year will be Dongfeng. Many of you haven't even heard of them. We need to think about the business models behind the tradition, the technology, the AI, the robots. It's the business model that makes the difference. The result is that Lingshu is the first city in China that can claim no traffic jams. Would you like to have a city with no traffic jams? Just a short 45-minute flight away from here, I was asked 25 years ago to help imagine the future of an island called El Hierro. El Hierro is a small island. It had 6,000 inhabitants. But the problem was, none of the children wanted to live on the island anymore. They all wanted to go to Barcelona, Valencia, Madrid. None wanted to stay on the island. And in that crisis, the parents asked themselves, what is our future? And my position was, the future is what you have always had, your fish. The fisherman's culture was the core, and of course, the island had been overfished by everyone, including the Spanish. So what do? My position to them was, the problem is not the overfishing. The problem is the fishing of the females with eggs. And we made an agreement with the fishermen that no more nets and only line, and whenever there is a female with eggs, you release her. And we will only catch the small males, who are pretty useless in the world of biology for fishes. And we will have particular attention to the new fishing techniques. Ladies and gentlemen, this little island of 6,000 people, now 12,000 people, is the island that pioneers this amazing know-how on how to catch the fish with air bubbles. Can you imagine fishing with air bubbles? Now, we have a culture of fishing that is 6,000 to 8,000 years old, and we fish with nets and hooks. Whales and dolphins, who have been fishing for 1 million years, fish with air bubbles. And the beauty of the air bubble is that the heavy grandmama fish, full of eggs, is not caught in the bubbles to go up on the surface. This, ladies and gentlemen, is an intelligence that we need to grasp, respect, and then see if we can be as intelligent as those incredible species that are showing us a way to have sustainable fishing. After now 25 years of not fishing the females with eggs, the grandmamas become bigger and bigger. In the world of biology of the fishes, the grandmothers have more eggs and more babies than the young ones. It's a little bit different with human beings. That grandma fish produces 35 to 40 million eggs per year in a specially designed zone. And ladies and gentlemen, around the island of El Hierro today, we have 10 times more density of fish than in the average of Spain. 10 times more. The fishermen earn on average 45,000 euro, unheard of in the European Union. Zero subsidies. Zero subsidies. Ladies and gentlemen, the business model is focused on value added. The business model is focusing on regenerating the ecosystem. And this is how I come to Morocco. I've had the great privilege of being invited here about a year ago, a little bit less, about 11 months ago. Morocco is a country that for most of its nation is in between two deserts. One desert, the Atlantic, the other desert, the Sahara. Now in this incredible space, everything grows. You only have to look for where it is. But there is this amazing desire of nature, even with the worst of the times that we as human beings see. Nature is always on the lookout to rebound. That's the culture we need in any nation. We need to look for the opportunities and ask ourselves that the fossils that emerge in the phosphate mining are just a fossil, or are they the future? We need to ask the unreasonable question of what about the fossils? So here in this beautiful space, where on the 21st of December last year, next to Tarfaya, Layoun in the south of Morocco, I could see the sun and the moon on the same day. Moon rising, sun setting. Spectacular environment you have. It is exactly the same environment where in 1927, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry arrived with a Breguet airplane. The Breguet airplane was the Rolls-Royce of planes at the time. And on one of his missions, to train himself to land into the dunes and get out of the dunes, he found a black rock. He found a second black rock. He found 7 heavy rocks and sent them to Paris. And in Paris, in this little home, he got the message that he had found 7 meteorites. Le Petit Prince fut né. The birth of Le Petit Prince was in Tarfaya, in the south of Morocco, in between the two deserts. And he imagined his little prince by finding these black rocks in the middle of the Sahara. Nowhere, nothing. This is how it looks like today. Ladies and gentlemen, it is classified as a military domain and you're not allowed entry. Needless to say that doesn't stop me. I went inside with the deputy governor. The governor couldn't do that, of course. He couldn't defy the military, but the deputy governor was ready to do it. Here is the landing space of the Breguet Plains, still operational. And a little museum emerged about Le Petit Prince and Saint-Exupéry. Morocco needs to know it is the birthplace of Le Petit Prince, le livre le plus lu, le plus traduit dans le monde entier, après la Bible. Bah oui, give honor to who comes the honor. This little prince is always asking the unreasonable questions. Ladies and gentlemen, innovation starts, disruptive innovation starts with unreasonable questions. And while this is the state of the house of Saint-Exupéry today, we can change that. But we have to realize that just a few kilometers down the road, there's absolute poverty. We cannot imagine the future celebration of the 100 years of Saint-Exupéry's creation of Le Petit Prince without addressing the poverty issue, without addressing the plastics issue. This location is about 40 kilometers away from OCP's operation in the south of Morocco. Major investments are being made by the company. But how can you think about phosphates without thinking about plastics? You can't separate the two. It's part of the same ecosystem. And just like the wolf decides on the change of the purpose and the running of the river, OCP and phosphates can change the purpose and the rule of the Sahara. The problem is not just plastics, the problem is microplastics. When you drink from a bottle of plastic of 1 liter, ladies and gentlemen, you are ingesting 3 to 10,000 microparticles of plastics. You are mummifying your body. Do you understand a mummy? We are leaving plastic particles in our liver, in our bladder, and we don't protest. So we need science to address it. Seagrasses and seaweeds, this is a particular variety of seaweeds from Morocco, are extraordinary in absorbing microplastics. While we were doing research on the incidence of phosphates in seaweeds and the possibility to grow seaweeds to extract the wasted phosphates in the seas from the industrial operations, we discovered this year in February that those seaweeds actually are extraordinary absorbents of microplastics. Today, we have imagined the techniques how to capture this. It's been deployed in Ireland. I have visited more than 20 sites in Japan. The beauty is that we can create a curtain out of seaweeds all around the sites where we want fish and people to thrive and create microplastic-free zones. Those microplastic-free zones need to have someone to operate it. I have been amazed by how China has responded to the capacity of absorbing microplastics. But when you have this mass of seaweeds, then you put it into a digester. The digester will mineralize the biomass and produce gas. The biogas can be consumed locally by the people who today need the government to subsidize the gas. And the solids that are left over in the digester after mineralization, ladies and gentlemen, is 50% phosphates. Amazing. The biophosphates that creates an abundance, but what is key is the price of the gas from seaweed that captured the microplastics is half the cost today of shale gas. While the world is flirting with this chemical fracking of the underground, risking aquifers and water, you have the opportunity to generate at half the cost the gas while cleaning up the ocean from microplastics and generate biophosphates. Phosphates, ladies and gentlemen, have naturally been made by so many biota. What you're harvesting here in Benguerir and in other places, Kurigba, what you're harvesting in the end is what 70 million years ago was deposited. But on the other hand, we know the appetite of the world and the need of the world for phosphates goes beyond what has been mined. And even if you double your production in Morocco, the world needs phosphates. And the bio version will be one that will emerge. Did you see that? Thank you. Here is that huge mass of soil, of underground, of sterile, of rocks. And that tremendous truth is, of course, causing dust. Dust that you always try to mitigate. So many research has been done on how to mitigate. Ladies and gentlemen, time is over to reduce your impact. Time is over to minimize the negative. If you're a thief and you're stealing, stealing less will not convince the judge. If you're polluting, polluting less doesn't convince the public at large. And so here is where our organization looked at what can be done with these incredible installations. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, we have proposed to OCP that the sterile, as you call it, is converted into paper. Fantasy or reality? We have clients like ExxonMobil using only stone paper. Why? Because in humid environments along the Gulf of Mexico, regular paper doesn't work, and your iPad doesn't work anymore due to the humidity. This is the first factory 6 years ago built in China. This is paper made from rocks that doesn't use any trees. It doesn't use any water. The market demand is rapidly increasing, but it's too heavy. So we blend it with air. What's the cost of air? I think you and I agree it's quite competitive. As a result, we see how innovation takes a rock that is crushed in a mining process and turns it into paper. We are hitting the 1 million ton production capacity in China because the Chinese government has decided that paper made from trees, cutting trees, using a lot of water, is not the future to go. And now the innovation is the corrugated cardboard. All packaging that can be done of fruits and vegetables in Morocco and goes to Europe can be transformed into fine paper in Europe. This is the circular economy of the future. With manufacturing going on, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are passing from fantasy to reality in Morocco. The generation of jobs related to this will equal the generation of jobs that the phosphate industry has mobilized. The revenues are in the thousands of dollars per ton, not in the $100 per ton. We're looking at a high value added with a readily available material. And then these rocks that otherwise are just being piled up are going to get a purpose, a value added purpose. When I present to children that paper is made out of rocks, they say, of course, because it doesn't use water and we don't cut a tree. If I talk to a paper engineer, he says, it's fantasy. Now, who lives in the world of fantasy? The child or the paper industry? The paper industry cannot follow the strategy of the past 100 years, ending up in genetic manipulation of trees, putting monoculture species on land, and then pretend that we're responding to the market needs. We need to include jobs, people, environment, social, all in the same business model. And then, of course, if you have visited the mines, then you will see these amazing little things starting to pop up in the middle of the most unfertile conditions. Sun, no water, and still it grows. Nature has this incredible capacity to survive, and one of these species is called the thistle, le chardon en français. And the thistle resists everything. Now, this little beautiful flower is considered a weed. A weed? This flower actually today, in the industries that I'm leading, I'm the chairman of this company, we're producing bioplastics, mulching material, we're producing capsules for coffee, we're producing the lubricants for all your equipment, elastomers, and even the substitute for glyphosates. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an industry. We can create 6 of the 7 types of plastics from a weed. And what we're in need of is not just thinking of the weed, because the weed has an enzymatic bacteria on top of it, which even in Morocco was used to make cheese. Morocco used to make cheese with the flowers of the thistles. Here you see our first operations in Italy were stranded acid. An old petrochemical plant of Eni is converted into a biorefinery. We are making those products today. We have invested over $1 billion, and we are moving towards the regeneration of industrial tissue where petrochemicals left problems. But we need somewhere to farm the thistles. And it's not really the farming, it's the recovery of the thistle in the soil. If you plant a tree with the best technologies, with the best genetics, that tree needs nutrients in the soil. It's not the water that's the most important. It's the mycorrhizal, it's the microorganisms. And the thistle is sent by God to re-nurture the soil with microorganisms. It's a perennial. So when I see this, I see thistle fields. We can recover this land in no time. In no time means in 25 years. Into very fertile land. It is possible to generate an economy with a thistle. We're doing it in Sardinia in Italy. We're doing it in Terna. We have 4 factories in Italy, the 5th one being finalized. Ladies and gentlemen, to come to my final proposal. With artificial intelligence, we need to very carefully think about what is the transmission mode of all the data that we generate. The largest infrastructure that is available in the world today is light. Every single light bulb on the street can be converted into the same functionality as a satellite. We can do data transmission and geolocalization with light. The satellites are too expensive, too far away, and they don't give us the precision we need if we want to be a centimeter precise. Satellite-based GPS gives us errors of 10, 20 meters. The Li-Fi technology allows us to introduce extreme precision. But as all of you know very well, when you have a lot of metal in an environment, your radio waves don't work very well. The big data requires new big transmission systems of the data. And while the 5G has offered us today the 1 gig per second, Well, ladies and gentlemen, the European Union has agreed on a new standard for a transmission speed of 2 tera per second, solely with light. If you were to achieve that with antennas of the 5 or the 6 Gs, you have to have an antenna every 30 meters. That's not viable. And then these technologies will allow us complete new ways of approaching our transmission systems in a logic like, for example, the quality control of phosphates, purely based on color. These installations, ladies and gentlemen, where light is on 24 hours a day in order to have the security cameras function all the time, all of that can be translated immediately into an extraordinary new platform of data transmission and geolocalization. My last point, education. Ladies and gentlemen, I admire the initiatives of OCP to create an university like this one. It is necessary that while there is, at the University of Marrakesh, they go from 10,000 to 100,000, 110,000 students. We know that that nivellation is bringing the standards down. It's a huge challenge. Therefore, this university, in cooperation with MIT, creating this star of learning, but also the magnet of bringing the best of Morocco back to Morocco, is to be applauded and supported. But we may not forget the actual incredible period of a child when it gets inspired for life. So I decided now 28 years ago that every single project, every single scientific breakthrough that we've been able to progress on must be translated into a children's story. For children, it's reality the moment they hear it. For the parents, it's fantasy. But it's the parents who live in a world of fantasy, the children telling us that they're not happy. And here you see the opening days in school about 3 weeks ago in China, where thousands of children are mobilized. The Chinese government have said that my fables are the basis of education now. I have 735,000 schools in China that all read the fables to inspire the young to be little entrepreneurs, not little scientists. We need the entrepreneurs who will change the world around. And therefore, let me tell you the philosophy of our Chinese friends, summarized in masters and grandmasters. When I'm a teacher and I inspire children, the children will give me back their enthusiasm and their learning. When I'm a good teacher and I have a lot of support from my kids, I may become a master. A master will have great young people who grow through to become teachers. And those teachers will share with their master the wisdom, the insights that they're developing, thanks to this incredible master, who, having these teachers, may even become a grandmaster. And the grandmaster will have done his best of students all become masters, teaching the grandmaster to come to a wisdom that can be carried in eternity. Wisdom, ladies and gentlemen, is learning from the generation that you have inspired. I hope this Congress will take on the responsibility, the leadership, that it's not only the science and the technology, not only the innovation and the disruption. We need to reach out to the next generation and don't teach them, inspire them. Thank you very much.
Very, very inspiring and very impressive. It's an honor to have you. And ladies and gentlemen, I will ask for some light, and we will have the opportunity of exchanging a little bit with Professor Gunther Pauli. First question, if I may. You've been talking about moving from fantasy to reality, and you are talking about making good use of the waste of phosphate. Can you elaborate on this a little bit? How would you see it really? What is your vision, and how can we make use of those mountains we see around here, and wondering what it's there for? What's your vision, please?
Well, I think the opportunity to transform the sterile, the leftover from the mining process, into paper is something that will fundamentally transform the logic of phosphates. My vision is that within 25 years, there will be 4 to 8 factories of paper in Morocco. These will be factories that are taking all the sterile, which you will have for 500 years to come. The beauty is, when I listen to people in Morocco, they say, oh, we have phosphates for 100 years to come. And now I'm adding to it and saying, and you have paper for 100 years to come. Now, that means that you're doubling your economy. And what are you doing at the same time? Cleaning up the mess, because I don't think that anyone likes to look at one of those sterile mountains. Wakes up in the morning, opens the window and says, how beautiful this is. People don't wake up like that. So let's wake up with a fantasy. We've done the pre-feasibility, we've looked at the material has been approved in the lab tests for making paper, and I think from here on it's up to Morocco to decide how fast they want to go, because the world market for cardboard is explosive at the moment. With the Amazons and the home deliveries, there is a huge demand. And can you imagine what it would mean if this is made from rocks that don't weigh more than the cardboard today, that can be recycled on the other side, creating a real circular economy? I am very clear. Next weekend I'm again with the Italian government, and I'm telling the new government, what do you want to do in Morocco? What do you want to do in North Africa? Do you want to create the barriers for the migrants to risk their lives? Or do you want to generate the thousands of jobs that they want to stay? And we have to go for the jobs. And therefore, this is not just a social responsibility. This is an environmental responsibility. But this is, I would say, a responsibility of OCP to Morocco.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You're talking about artificial intelligence, and what I see is a beautiful demonstration of human intelligence, because I think there's an intelligence of the heart, and you're doing a good demonstration of it. Then we can use all kinds of intelligences and technologies for sure. So if you had to give an advice to me, to all of us, what would be the first steps to take to change, to bring up the change?
I have 6 children, and I know that the greatest task of a dad with 6 children is to recognize this amazing difference amongst all 6, and to be able to inspire them. Because I feel that what we have been lacking with all these MBAs, all these Masters of Business Administration, we've put in the head Excel spreadsheets. We put in the head strategic planning. We've put in the head risk analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get the heart in there. Let's inspire. Because a child like Aifou Kati today, who is swimming with the whales, has become one of the leading world experts in supplying oxygen to the brain. She never studied it, but she practiced it. And by being able to practice for 6 minutes a dance with a whale, she is now helping how to ensure oxygen to the brain at moments of crisis. So how is the real progress towards the intelligence, including the artificial intelligence and the robotism? We have to have an inspired population. And when the population has to fight to get to school, has to fight to get good food, has to fight to have water, how much innovation can you expect? You can only expect revolutions and despair. That is our responsibility. For all of us who have the privilege of being in this room, that is our responsibility. We have to change that.
Thank you very much. Can we take two questions from the, I'm sorry, I wish we had more time, but two questions, please.
I'm here all day, so you can take me in any of the meetings beyond.
S'il vous plaît, yeah.
Et vous pouvez poser les questions en français, hein, sans problème, si vous êtes plus à l'aise en
I'll ask
français.
you to kindly introduce yourself briefly. S'il vous plaît, micro.
Micro, bonjour.
Ça va?
Ça va très bien.
Jamal Shawki, professor at
Canadien.
Canadien, but
Ouais.
at the same time affiliated here. I mean, your presentation is really inspiring, really, very much. Thank you very much for, for being with us. But my question is back to Petit Prince. The question is, when he found this meteorite, with he sent them to France. My question, did they return back to Morocco? And I will tell you why. I don't know the answer, but I believe that it's no. And this is coming from unbalanced economy around the world. I know that third world countries have to take their responsibilities, but at the same time, they are facing unbalanced economy around the world. And how you can fit what you are saying, which is absolutely extraordinary, to the fact that this unbalanced economy around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you have heard through my presentation, I'm not proposing a shift back to communism and the planned economy. But I am proposing a strong shift from management to entrepreneurship. We need a new generation of entrepreneurs. Les entrepreneurs pour le bien commun. The entrepreneurs who not only want to become a unicorn, entrepreneurs who want to serve society. And I think that is what I found amazingly in China, that when I talked with the Chinese leadership, that they have said to me, we want children to be entrepreneurs. And I agree. If I have my sons, I have 5 sons and 1 daughter. If my 5 sons protesting and being against, I have failed as a dad. I want my children to wake up and say, Dad, I will do much better than you have ever been able to do. And that is the framework we need to create. Because protests don't help. You can vent your frustration, but the inequality is changed through thousands of small initiatives, not through one big political decision, nor another COP agreement.
Thank you. Another one?
I'm sorry, I must add, I was at COP 1, COP 2, and COP 3. No more COPs for me. I've had enough. 3 times in America to say, 3 times out. I don't need that meeting anymore. We need action on the ground. We need initiatives. We need the transformation of technologies that are working and that have gone through the systemic analysis that it is generating the jobs, that it is serving the environment, that is uplifting communities, that it improves resilience. That's the kind of things. And if that becomes the standard of the MBA, then we have a future.
Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, I'm Roberto from Brazil, of the University of Campinas. And as Professor Jamal said, I just loved your talk, and I think it was very much inspiring. And my question to you is, all these ideas that were just incredible, do you have a team dreaming with you, or is it really you?
Oh, no. I mean, if it were me, it would be a failure. It only works because I've had the privilege, and thank you for the question, because I should clarify. When I sold my businesses in Belgium, after I discovered that I was using palm oil and destroying the rainforest in Indonesia, I sold all my businesses, and I was invited by the Japanese government to lead the think tank to help prepare the Kyoto Protocol of '97. So from '94 to '97, I was in Tokyo attending COP123, imagining the way that we could really get to zero emissions. But the Americans and the Europeans had agreed it would be cap and trade. They would have certificates to trade. And they had agreed New York and London would be the hub for it. And none of my proposals were accepted. But 82 professors from Japanese universities that were the origin of our network of think tank was complemented by the decision of the Chinese Academy of Sciences to join. Now, if you have the Chinese Academy, you have any subject you can imagine. And as a result, we created this network that today is still a network of about 3,000 researchers. I receive every day about 10 proposals whereby the word is, that will change the world. These proposals are circulated amongst our network, and usually one per month meets our criteria. When I see the one per month, I fly there. I want to know the heart of the person. If it has the heart, if he has or she has the heart, I will work. If there's no heart, I will not work. And then we focus on implementation. The stone paper case was 17 years of research on machinery development. 17 years. There's no government nor private organization that usually finances this. That's the role of my organization. We get the legacy investors to back it up. And by having the investors to back it up without wanting return, legacy investors are people who have the pleasure of thinking that they're changing the world. And there are quite a few people. Now, what do you want with your life? Put $500 million on a building at MIT or Harvard and pay for the building as well and get an endowment? Or do you want to change the world for real? More and more people are committed to put money so that we can really transform. And that network of 3,000 scientists today has been complemented by about 1,000 entrepreneurs. People who take initiatives, investors who meet and say, I think this idea about solid coffee that will regenerate the forest in Colombia, I like that. How much do you need for the first factory? 3.7 million. Check is written. No details, no analysis, no Excel spreadsheets, none. It's based on confidence. And that works because of one thing. I don't want the money. I don't want to be the owner. And I think this is very important, the network that we have of the think tank and the do tank, the combination of the two allows us to be proactive.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, please join me in thank you for your contributions, for your presence, and please.
Thank you.
Congratulations for all you do, and it's an honor to have you. I'll get this to you later. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll keep you for another 5 minutes with your authorization, just to give you some important announcements. So please note that the topic material and corrosion was moved by the organizing committee from Tuesday to this afternoon at Ibn Sina room in the first floor. Mr. El-Fali said it, you're all invited to visit the posters, to discover the posters. 67 posters are available. There is a touch terminal that you will see in those London telephone booths, and it's written I-info. You're invited to go and put your information in it so that you can be updated on a regular basis on everything that is happening on the SYMPHOS and after the SYMPHOS. The organizing committee has prepared for all of you 2 visits, one to Benguerir mine, the second to Jorf al-Asfar integrated platform. It's 150 kilometers from here. Visits are scheduled on Thursday 10th. You are welcome to register at the front desk before Wednesday 10 a.m. The gala dinner will be on Tuesday 8th. Pickup time will be at 8 p.m. at the lobby of your hotels. And we are now all invited to visit the exhibition As it was said, more than 87 companies came from distances to present their services, innovations, technologies, so we're all invited there. And the coffee break will be served there, and then lunch is served from 12 to 2, and we will meet again here at 2 o'clock, and we will have the pleasure of listening to Mr. Su Hua Chan. Thank you very much, and see you later. Thank you.